Hey there, welcome to TekCanon. Launching yourself into a high paying tech career is a lot easier than it seems, and I'm here to show you just how. A lot of other software engineering interview prep websites mostly focus on how to solve technical problems, but in this course series, we're going to go over everything, the entire process, from how to secure the interviews all the way to how to even negotiate the offer at the end. This should help you launch your tech career. So if you're ready to get to work, let's go. I'm sure the first thing you were expecting from me was to show you what a great resume looks like, but how I like to approach it is to first start from what you even need to get a great resume. So we're going to talk about what it entails to have a great resume, but how to build that. I have three topics to cover for before the resume, which are choosing a programming language, getting comfortable in the tech space, and getting the right projects. Now, personally, I always like to advise people to choose one programming language when they're starting their software engineering career. Learning multiple at the start is just going to confuse you even more. I say pick one, focus on one, and stick with it. Now, that being said, to answer the age old question of what programming language to pick first, I personally recommend C Sharp or Java. Why? There are two major reasons for this, actually three. But let me start with first two. C Sharp and Java, being object oriented programming languages, will teach you the basics of object oriented programming. That is a very core concept that is used across several industries and would definitely be a skill that you will not regret learning. Secondly, it is a great language to understand the fundamentals of programming as it goes over concepts from classes to variables, integer types, different loops, as well as advanced stuff like inheritance, but we won't get into that right now. Another major reason I recommend C Sharp or Java is the fact that either of them are multipurpose languages. They have been built and developed and improved over the years, and they are great at building several kinds of applications. You can use them to build games, web applications, mobile applications, the list goes on and on. So yeah, my recommendation, C Sharp or Java to get you started. Learning C Sharp or Java is great because you could easily learn any other programming language. It will feel like going from learning to drive a regular car to learning to drive a go-kart once you try to switch to another language. So trust me guys, C Sharp or Java. Now once you've mastered the fundamentals of programming with C Sharp or Java, I recommend going into HTML, CSS, and if you're feeling a little frisky, you could go into JavaScript as well. HTML and CSS, why? Because these languages are the fundamentals of building web applications. You could use this to learn how to build websites, to learn how to build your own portfolio website. It gets people attracted. People are attracted by what they can see and interact with. So these languages are a great starting point for that. Another language which falls under the web development category is JavaScript as well. Once you've mastered HTML, CSS, you could learn a bit of JavaScript to make your web pages more interactive. An interactive web page will get more attention from recruiters, for example. As far as resources go, for learning programming language, I personally recommend sololearn.com or coursera.com. Sololearn.com because it's more hands-on. They have quizzes and modules that you could take, so it really helps you get your hands dirty and try some of the concepts rather than just watching the video and hoping that you're learning what you're watching. Coursera is also great as well. They have various course creators on there. You could go ahead and pick whichever intro course, doesn't matter which one, for C Sharp or Java, as well as for HTML, CSS. Now, GitHub and Stack Overflow are a bit different in that these would be your best friends when you're running into issues trying to fix your code or understand why your code is failing, understand the code error. these websites would be great for you to use as kind of like help sources. Now, for my second topic, events and communities. This is one of the most important, yet one of the most ignored aspects of searching for a software engineering job. I would say this from personal experience, especially if you're coming from a non-target university or you do not have a traditional software engineering degree. You need to find a way to stand out, and let's just get into it. I know a lot of people get intimidated when they hear about hackathons, technical conferences, technical clubs, but don't be. This is the easiest way to get your foot in the door into the tech space. I'd say first and foremost, you want to get comfortable in this space. Don't be afraid to go in there without having a plan for a hackathon, for example. Don't be afraid to go in there without having a project to present. At my first hackathon, I didn't even build anything. I just walked around, enjoyed the food, met new people, and attended a couple workshops. So now workshops, these are great opportunities for you to learn while you're at a fun event. These never last for more than an hour, 45 minutes at most. And they could be talks on new technologies. They could just be teaching on how to start your first website. These are great ways for you to also start learning more about the space you want to be in. Now, last but definitely not least, network, network, network. Meet as many people as you can, connect with them genuinely, and you never know where you can meet these people in the future. They could refer you for an opportunity, you could refer them. The possibilities are endless. I actually have a funny story about this networking one, where back when I was in college, I met someone at a hack conference who later, while we were talking, mentioned his university had a tech career fair coming up, and looking at the type of companies and the sheer number of companies that went to his university versus mine, which was a very small university, non-target, that only had about 5 tech companies come recruit. His university actually had a lot more, and he was able to, the guy I met at this hack event was able to sneak me into his university's career fair. And funny enough, that was how I got my first ever offer in tech. I got an interview by meeting one of the recruiters over there, who later signed me up, and the company flew me out for a technical interview, and I received my first offer, which I ended up later declining, but for personal reasons. And you could ask me later if you want to find out why. Now, for these events, there are a lot of companies that sponsor to attend these technical events, and they want a lot of developers to come, so they could also potentially recruit from these developers. So this is a great way to get yourself out there as well. I'll drop a link in the resources section of this chapter, so you could take a look at a blog post that I found that has a list of organizations that sponsor developer events. Now, as far as attending hackathons, which are great for developers, these are 2 great resources that I recommend for finding hackathons near you. They were great for me for finding hackathons while I was in college and even after. Now, while you're doing all this networking and also learning your languages, you'd want to get a couple projects going on your resume, especially. Now, why do we want some projects on our resume? There are 2 major advantages. One of which is that it builds your technical skills. The second one is that it helps you attract attention on your resume. You're competing with a lot of people with the resume game, so you definitely want something that stands out there for you to be selected for an interview. So don't get intimidated by that. Start small. Don't try to build the next AI application or the next application to take us to Mars. You could start with a basic calculator app, a portfolio website, a small game, a flight booking website, something simple that you feel, based on the skills you have developed programming, you should be able to tackle. So one trick here for projects on your resume is a trick that I have used for myself as well as others is to build a simple application, but then give it a story and give it a title that makes it exciting. For example, let's say you build a to-do list application. You can give it a cool name, something completely off topic, and talk about how this story, how this application, how you built it while you were facing a challenge at work or with your community, and you felt like this would help bring everyone together in an organized fashion, blah blah blah. And then you could even slap on a simple email sender. There's a lot of template code for sending emails, and then talk about how, oh, while you were also doing this, you felt an email reminder would be best to help keep people alert, and it did after you applied it. And slap it onto your application and label it as something cooler than it is. This shows recruiters initiative. They like to see that you had a problem in real life and you created something to solve that problem and it solved it effectively. So yeah, try to put cool projects on your resume. Cool. And third, if you're feeling bold, you could try to build your friends' applications. I'm sure you have friends that have ideas. Everyone has friends that has ideas for the next big app. Just sometimes you could just dive in just to give yourself a challenge after maybe building a couple applications and you want to work with something on a bit of a larger scale. And when doing this, I would advise working with someone who is a more experienced developer. So that way they could have run into some of the issues that you might run into earlier that might discourage you. And they can give you advice on how to tackle those problems. Remember I said meet new people? This is where those new people come in handy. So you could work with them and they could provide guidance and you could create a great product at the end. Hey guys, so that was chapter 1 of TekCanon. Feel free to leave feedback, comments on how you felt this chapter went and what else you'd like to see. But for now, that's all. Thanks. See you next chapter.